In this week's episode of Studio Inter, we'll be reviewing the game against Torino. We'll be previewing the upcoming games against Viktoria Plzen and Udinese. This week's Moggi, Moratti and Frog, and much, much more. Everything here on Studio Inter, only on SempreInter.com.
Now it's Barella for Brozovic. It's gone in. Inter get over the line, and they do it late.
Benvenuti, bentornati to another edition of Studio Inter. I'm your host, Nicolo Ruzzari, wishing you back to a week where Inter won the first of three incredibly important games after the start to the season that Inter have had. But before we get to all of that, let me begin by introducing my panelists. Starting with, he's the SempreInter.com preview writer, Mr. Mohamed Nassar. We'll be returning to doing those starting in October, won't we?
Yes, we shall, and looking forward to getting back to the previews, and looking forward to talking maybe some optimism and happiness in Intersphere.
Absolutely. And we are also joined by SempreInter.com feature writer, Mr. Jake Smalley, who pens a weekly column called 5 Things We Learned from Inter This Week. How are you doing, Jake?
I'm very well, thank you. I very much like that use of the phrase pens as well. Very professional.
Well,
as an English teacher, I enjoy
oh, dear. Yeah, well, yes, I try to keep it grammatically correct in Her Majesty's English as much as possible, and not that colonial tongue which some people speak. And speaking of colonial tongues, we are joined. Yeah, sorry, Mo, you wanted to say something?
I was going to say, surely it's His Majesty's English now, right?
No, I don't acknowledge him. I'm much more conservative than most people are. But regardless, let's go to. Speaking of colonial tongues, we are joined by a very good friend of the show. He's our go-to refereeing guy. He's also producer on TLN. He's currently in Milan, watching. He watched Inter Torino at the San Siro. Mr. Mike Gallo.
Well, I've actually just made the trip from Milano to Torino, so I'm now in Torino right now. But yes, was at the game. Been a long time. Happy to be back on with the podcast with you guys, and I bring the good luck charm to Inter because they needed it big time that game.
Absolutely. Let's get into it, and I wanted to start by discussing the game against Torino. It was an incredibly important win, and I think we should acknowledge first and foremost that Torino are a very, very good side. They're very well organized. They're very good on the pitch. They were, even though their coach Ivan Juric wasn't there due to health issues, they were extremely well organized. They know exactly when to press, when to drop, when to push up high, when to not do it, and so on and so forth. And so we should acknowledge that they are a very difficult side to break down, but there are also aspects of Inter's game that were positive and negative. I want to start with the positive stuff, so I'm turning to you, Mr. Positivity. What was the most positive things about Inter's game in your opinion?
Look, I mean, it's undeniable. We have to address the goalkeeping. I think there's no coincidence the fact that Onana started and did well against Bayern. So now that there's genuine competition for spaces, it's not outside the realm of possibility to imagine that Handanovic's good form in that game was somehow related to that. I also like the fact that despite it being a difficult game, this is a match where Inter could have folded. Inter didn't fold, and I just love the midfield module. I mean, whether players are in form or not, I think the fact that it was Barella who assisted Brozovic for that last minute goal is telling. I think the core of the side, when in form, is extremely important. I think getting players back in form, having Lukaku back is only. I mean, this is probably as bad as it gets in terms of a start from a match fitness sort of perspective. So I think I see like you said, this was an important game. We have another couple of very important games as well tomorrow and over the weekend. If Inzaghi and the squad manage to navigate through them properly, then we've seen through the worst of this early season crisis. So I think this for me is the biggest positive, that it was, like you said, a difficult game against a very difficult opponent, and we got the 3 points, all things notwithstanding.
You're right. For me, the most positive thing was that there was balance between between the midfield line and the defensive line. I've been very vocal about how Inter this season, especially, I think it's because, and I explained that last week, that I think that Simone Inzaghi prepared a preseason playing a high defensive line, and then he's lowered it, but the midfield haven't really adapted. I thought that was not an issue or it was far less of an issue. It only happened once or twice where Inter were overrun on the counter when they lost the ball. That didn't happen as much against Torino, which I expected it to happen. So that was very positive for me. I also think what I want to raise, my second thing, before I turn to you, Mike, is that I think what I find the most positive is that there's actual competition for every single spot on that team, from goalkeeper to right wing back to defender to midfield. And that's good because it forces players to improve, and they have to perform. And if not, they're substituted off. That is that to me is incredibly positive. I thought Bellanova was an injection of speed and energy when he came on, and I thought Mkhitaryan was good when he came on. I think Handanovic, of course, was fantastic, but I still stand by what I said last week. I think Onana should be the starter, and I think everyone agrees. But I think the fact that there's competition actually makes it much makes it stronger. It makes everyone perform better and Inter better, and that's something we've not had. Not even Conte's Inter, because there was a clear starting lineup and there were clear substitutes that came on. Now I think there's more competition for spots in important places, and I think that in the short run will be a very good thing, in terms of for the goalkeeping position, but also on all the other positions on the pitch as well. Mike, you were there at the game. What is your main takeaway?
On the conversation where you mentioned like having that starting 11, and is it good to have a starting 11 and Wiesen? We've had that conversation on this podcast before, and is it better to have consistency or is it better to have depth? Look, you can really put in any number of 15, 16, 17 players really to start on this team at any point. And I think it is good, but I think it's best when you have injuries. If you don't have injury, if everyone's healthy, I think it's better to have a consistent starting 11. But longer into the year it goes, the better it is to have that depth and the ability to put in, can Gosens start, can DeMarco start, it doesn't really matter. As long as you've got 15, 16 guys like we do right now, I think, like you mentioned with Mkhitaryan, even Bellanova came in. I thought Bellanova played pretty good. I don't think the fans thought that, because they were whistling at him a few times when he was taking his sweet-ass time to come up the field on a counterattack. So, but I did think he had some really good movement on the ball. On the Handanovic Onana situation, I think the correct thing to do is to kind of rotate them. I think at the one position you can really rotate a player, it's best at goalkeeper. It's just because it doesn't really matter who's back there. It's not like they're that involved with the buildup of play, with the exception of when they've got possession at the back. But really, all you're doing is just being a quick little outlet. So I do think that it's great to what Inzaghi did play Onana in Champions League in a very big game, in his first game, and he answered the bell. I also thought Martinez had a really good game. He had a lot of really good first touches, and he was controlling the ball excellent and outlets out to the wing. I honestly think he was Inter's best player in the game in terms of every single time he touched the ball, he did something positive with it. It was really good to see that, and just other than that, being at the game was very, a very good feeling. And it has something. I think the last game I was a Slavia Prague game where I think Barella scored the tying goal in like the 92nd minute or something like that. So it was really awesome to be in the stadium, and 70,000 people on a Saturday 12 o'clock game or a 6 o'clock game local time. So and they've had 70,000 strong the last week or so. So this is such a great feeling to be back in the stadium and to see everyone excited. And now that COVID's kind of behind us, hopefully, and everything's moving forward.
For sure. I mean, the Inter and Milan and Roma and Napoli, I mean, they're packing the state. I mean, the attendances have increased in Italy so far this season, and that's a great thing for sure. But I mean, if we're going to talk a little, I mean, something that started negatively but became better for me is Barella and Brozovic. I think Barella and Brozovic had poor games, Barella in particular, but Simone Inzaghi said after Bayern Munich that Barella's had a difficult game. Has had a difficult start of the season because he has a minor injury or a minor problem, as he said. But I have to say, one thing that is good is that although he had a dreadful game, I don't think it can be understated the importance of if someone like Barella and Brozovic, who did struggle, but that they managed to link up for the winning point, for the winning goal and the 3 points. I think that is incredibly important for confidence, belief, and it builds momentum as well. Because I mean, what happening is Bayern Munich, we all knew that Bayern Munich is at least a level or two above, well, all teams in Italy, not just Inter. And we saw that, but I think it was important. But I think it was so important for Inter to not concede a goal and to win at the death by working themselves into the game. Because let's be honest, that first half was not very good, was it, Jake?
No, it was clumsy. I think it was probably the best word that I would use to describe. I think watching a lot of the play so far in games this year, the only game that I've really been convinced by in terms of the performance was the Spezia game. And, the performance in that game was just routine, beating a side that you'd expect them to beat quite comfortably. And they did. They created chances, it looked a bit more balanced. I think a word that, I used to describe the team at times a little bit this year has been a bit stale. I think if you look across the squad, you've got players who've played under Antonio Conte, you've got players who've played under Luciano Spalletti, players who've played under Inzaghi. I think it must be quite a tough time in some ways to be an Inter player, knowing all the circus that surrounds the club in the press in terms of finances, things like that. Obviously, the players were disappointed after last year, losing that Scudetto badge. So I think it's been a little bit hard to see them get going. And I think the players are feeling that a little bit. You talk about Barella, you talk about Brozovic there. Barella is a player who has come off the back of playing almost 3 straight seasons. He's played a COVID-interrupted year all the way to the Europa League final. He's played a full Scudetto winning campaign and ended up playing in the Euros into that season. He's then played again for a full season. And we forget, he's under 25 years old as well. He's still very young. He's a player who's not reached his peak years yet. And to play on the level that he does week after week, to then give him a minor injury, as you say, and having a couple of under par performances, it's really noticeable. And it's the same with Brozovic. It's no coincidence that last season, during the time where Inter had a lean spell that probably cost them the title, I remember the game in particular at Genoa, Inter were terrible, and it's because they missed Brozovic. His industry, his guile, the way he links defence and attack at times, the way that he can steal the ball to stop opposition from countering. If those two aren't at their best, Inter are simply not at their best, in my opinion.
That is so true. I don't think anyone can disagree with that. Just quickly before we move on, I mean, the Bayern Munich game, Andrea Onana is the big talking point this week, Mo. We all got to see what we wanted to see and what we said we wanted to see on last week's pod on Monday. Obviously, after the game, Simone Inzaghi said that Samir Handanovic will return to the lineup against Torino. I'm keen to hear what your thoughts on this are, because I think there is a risk of alternating between goalkeepers. But having said that, I also think that at some point you have to slowly ease Onana in to replace Handanovic, because the future lay with Onana and not Handanovic. What is your thoughts on that?
No, I agree completely. I think a managed introduction or a managed transition is very important. And like I said earlier, I think, and like you said as well, genuine competition for faces creates better performance overall. Now, the goalkeeping position is always very tricky to rotate because, a lot of it relies on form and consistency and on the pitch. But if there is a straight delineation between roles, or at least until maybe the winter break, until the World Cup or something, where Onana does the European fixtures and Handanovic does the domestic Serie A games, then I think that's a good halfway solution. With an eye, like you say, on the future, where Onana then becomes, maybe the Champions League and the Serie A goalie, and then Handanovic then becomes the goalie for the cup, something or the other. But yeah, no, a managed transition is always very important, as long as it's done with a proper regimen in mind.
Are you guys surprised that he chose the Bayern Munich game as the game to give him his first start? Because I kind of was.
I have to say I was as well. I didn't expect that. I would have preferred to. I mean, if it were up to me, I would have preferred to play him against Torino. But
yeah, I agree.
But having said that, he was great. He was Inter's best player on the night, and I don't think he can be blamed for any of the goals. In fact, I think Danilo D'Ambrosio is the one.
Yeah.
Him scoring an unnecessary own goal and also being a bit late, and also Denzel Dumfries, who has shown quite a bit of defensive deficiencies so far this season. He doesn't look like he's quite in form. So for me, those two goals have nothing to do with that, and I think he handled it really well. Yeah, he made one of these, he made a mistake where the ball hit the post. I don't know if you guys noticed that. But
yeah, that was I don't know what he was doing on that. Yeah. He got lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, he did get lucky, but at the same time, I think he needs to play. He needs to he's been out of the game for such a long time, and I think the thing that I take the most out of that is his distribution with the feet, with the ball at his feet. I mean, if I'm Romelu Lukaku, I'm looking at that and I am licking my I'm licking my lips, thinking of the service I'm going to get when he's fit and Onana's playing, because the service was outstanding. He made these long 60-70 yard passes, which were with millimeter precision, and Lukaku would have loved it. I mean, he would have absolutely loved that. And I think when teams defend deep and low blocks against Inter, that early first ball will really, really help Inter stretch teams apart. So no, I was really, really that particular thing really made me that really made me happy. I wanted to ask you, Jake, and also you, Mike and Mo, just like what you found. I mean, in terms of Onana, just name one thing that the most positive thing about the Onana performance. I'll start with you, Jake, and then I'll go to Mo and then Mike.
There was a moment just before the half-hour mark, I think it was, definitely the first half, where there was a shot from Muller that he tipped over the bar, and that was the moment where it really hit me. It was a diving save up to his left, and he tipped over the bar. I think it was going over anyway, and I actually turned to my dad who was watching the game, and then I said to him, Handanovic wouldn't have been able to reach that. He'd have watched it. And I think that's it for me. He's more flexible. He's not as wooden. Distribution, absolutely fantastic. I'd throw him in straight and I'd keep him in. But like we said last week, Handanovic is captain. He's been a great player all these years. It's natural that they're going to phase him out in a certain type of way. So we're just going to have to wait and see, aren't we?
Yeah, I think generally his athleticism, like Jake says, it makes a difference. You can't, as good as a goalkeeper is, even we saw it with the Buffon at Juve when he's pushing 40. Athleticism goes. Father Time always wins, and having someone young and capable, he's not just a great distributor of the ball, but he's a great shot stopper too. So I think the future is very bright. I was very happy. I'm very happy, looking forward to the next phase in a long line of illustrious goalkeepers between the posts at Inter. So yeah, no, I think that's athleticism and youth is what I take away.
Absolutely. What about you, Mike? I know what my favorite thing is. I think there was towards the end of the first half, I think it's Alphonso Davies when he cuts in from the left and he makes a shot that is to the in the far corner. That's a shot that Handanovic hasn't saved for 6 years, or 3-4 years at least, not 6 but 3 years. That was my favorite moment with him. What about you?
I know all about Alphonso Davies, watching him for many years, 5-6 years since he was a kid. So, watching him dominate in that game was something I was kind of expecting. But on Onana, his awareness, he's got the ability to kind of expect where the ball might be going, which we know Handanovic doesn't have that. And if what's Handanovic been the worst at, in his career, it's using his feet. He's been horrible. He's been literally a 0 out of 10 in terms of goalkeepers using his feet. And I think it was really noticeable how good Onana was, but really in comparison to how bad Handanovic is with his feet, that's what made it so noticeable. So, those are the two things for sure that would makes him stand out. And it should have been 3 or 4-0 for Bayern. And
for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Let's not dwell on that too much. Let's move on to another Champions League game, which is being played. We're recording this on a Monday. It's being played on Tuesday away against Viktoria Plzen, the side from Czech Republic, who haven't lost at home since May 2021. 28 straight games of no defeats at home. And obviously they were completely ripped apart by Barcelona, but I expect them to turn up against Inter. I think this is going to be a tough one. What kind of game are you expecting, Mo?
Who was that tough team in our group last year? Was it Shakhtar Donetsk or who was?
Oh yeah, I mean Shakhtar. No, it was. Didn't we have the what are they called from Transnistria?
Sheriff.
Yeah, Sheriff.
Yeah, Sheriff.
Sheriff.
Yeah.
They beat Real last year. They beat Real.
Yeah. I think it's one of those games. It's going to be similar to going to play against Hellas Verona and the Vetogotri. It's just they're going to be tough. They're going to be very compact. I think. I think they're going to. I would attack Inter in the flanks, particularly at the Dumfries side on quick counterattacks. It's going to be a classic way that these quote-unquote weaker European teams line up against Inter. It's not going to be pretty. I think we're going to struggle to find the net. I think until Lukaku is back and in rotation, I think this is going to be a running theme. But I don't think I'm not really looking forward to this game, at least from a viewing perspective. Hopefully the result is going to be in our favor, but because if we don't take all 3 points, that's it. There's no chance in hell we're getting out of the group. I think it's not going to be a pretty game. I think maybe I'm conflating the Sheriff game with the Shakhtar game from the season before.
No, but we have Shakhtar last season as well. We had Shakhtar and Sheriff, didn't we? And Real Madrid.
I think. Yeah, I think the Shakhtar games in Donetsk or I think they weren't being played in Donetsk. They were being played somewhere else. Whatever. But the Shakhtar games
in Lviv.
Yeah, those games suck, and I think this is going to suck as well.
Well, I mean, what about predictions? What do you think, Mo? I mean, if you were to give a prediction, because I think this is a must-win game. If Inter don't win this game, they're, then that's it. Then I think, they're not going to go.
No 3 points, no point. Exactly. So I mean, no 3 points, no. I think we're going to struggle, but hopefully, the Ambrosio-esque goal towards the end gets us the 3 points. I think we're going to win, but just barely. I think it's like I said, it's going to be an ugly game, but we're barely going to scrape through like a 2-1 or a 2-1 or a 1-0.
I'd take that with great ease. I'd take that easily. What about you, Mike? Well, first of all, are you going to stay in Italy for that game, or what's happening?
So this is such a. I'm so mad because on going to the game, whoever Inter would play, no matter where it was on Tuesday, Wednesday, wherever it was, except if it was in Czech Republic, and of course that was the only place they played. So I've got my away card where I can go to the game. I just, it was too quick of a decision to make it out. I really wanted to go to Plzen, but if they were playing at home, or if they were playing in Munich, or if they were playing in Barcelona, I would have went for sure. But Prague, it was just too out of the way for my schedule. I would have loved to go. I've never been to an away game before, so I'm kind of ticked off about that. It was a That it would have been nice, but I've decided to go to Copenhagen and Sevilla on Wednesday when I head out of Italy. So not kind of a second choice, but it is what it is. I think that if Viktoria Plzen is going to get a point in this group, this is the game to get it out of. I don't think there's going to be another game where they can get a point. So it might be in their head that they need to do that. They're not going to get any points off of Barcelona or Bayern, unlikely. This is their best chance at getting points in the group, and I would probably say a draw is the most likely scenario, but Inter is the better team and they should get 3 points. So my brain is leaning draw, but my heart is probably saying a 2-1 victory.
Well, I hope you're right. I certainly hope you're right. I've got a goalless draw feeling about this, but what about you, Jake? What have you got?
I hate these types of fixtures. They're awful. Inter playing against a team whose name sounds like someone's headbutted a keyboard, and it's there's just nothing to gain out of games. It's
headbutted a keyboard.
It is. It's irritating. They have like League One in England level players playing for them who just drink loads of Gatorade before they play against Inter. They'll play some horrible defensive filth and rag a point. I can just feel there's nothing to be gained out of these games, and history tells us it's not the type of game where Inter are going to go away and win 4-0 because the other team just raises the game so much. Sometimes the setting, that'd be a bit of a potato field, like when Ronaldo played in Moscow all those years ago. I just think
actually their stadium is pretty good.
Is it in good shape? I've not actually looked.
Yeah,
that's on me that.
No, I've seen that. They're actually a really well run club.
Yeah. No, I think it will be a tough game. Just it's the cynicism in me that's seen this before and sees it as being a negative. I can see into picking up another injury over there. I just think the hostility of it makes it difficult. I think I'm going to go with what Mike said, and I think there'll be a draw out of this. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I think it'll be Pilsen's only point.
We'll see. On Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, or is it Saturday? I think it's Sunday at 12:30. It's a lunch kickoff that Inter play away against Udinese on the 18th. So that makes it the Sunday. Yeah, it's the Sunday lunch match. Away against an Udinese, we've got 4 straight wins and are scoring for fun with one of the most hyped up hipster coaches of the moment right now. Sottil, who was at Ascoli last season in the Serie B, did a really good job there. But I think has been I think he's been really, really good at Udinese, and I think Udinese is the right place for him. And Udinese have so many good players. Beto for sure, Destiny Udogie, Samardzic. No, they have so many good players, and they are such a trouble. They are such a bogey team for Inter, aren't they? At Udinese away, and it's a lunch kickoff as well. So I'm going to go to you, Mo. Is there any positivity at all in the Mr. Positivity tank for this game?
Look, so you know me and lunchtime kickoffs. I hate them. I think they're absolutely their track record in Inter. I think particularly lunchtime at the Mapei Stadium against Sassuolo. This is just spells doom and disaster. I don't know. I think the fact that they play expansive football is probably the only saving grace. I think had it been a Sassuolo-esque sort of team that does counter-attacking well, and they're quite compact and not daring, then maybe I'd be a bit. I'm wary anyway, but I'd be extremely pessimistic. But I think it's a draw. I think we're going to break their winning streak, and we're going to continue to drop points in the league here. So I think it's a scoring draw.
I think it's. I think we're losing this. I'm sorry. I just don't see how Inter beat this Udinese away. I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like we're gonna lose 2-1. What about you, Mike? What are your feelings?
Well, I hate lunch kickoffs, but for a reason unlike you guys, because Inter usually plays bad. I hate them because I can never watch them because it's at 6 o'clock in the morning in Canada. So that's the reason why I hit lunch Kickoffs. But hey, I'm in Europe now, so I can watch the game at noon, so that's fine with me. But what I will say is, like this team has been scoring like at will. When they beat Roma 4-0 last week, that was something I was not expecting. And I mean, this is not going to last forever. So I think it's a tough one to call, but I do think that I think Inter's got a better chance against Udinese than they do against Plzen. That's just my opinion on how this goes this week.
Well, I really hope you're right. I couldn't. I absolutely hope you're right, Mike, and I hope that your prophecy comes true. Let's move on to I want to talk a little bit also about this Milan Skriniar thing. Obviously, his contract situation. He hasn't extended yet. He was today when we're recording this. He just told Sport Media, said after the press conference ahead of the game that when he was asked, can you give the fans something to be calm about? Can you give the fans something to be happy about in terms of your contract? And he said, look, they know me. And I've always given everything for this shirt, and because Marotta was optimistic, and he says the fans know me after all these years. I think that says it all. That made me feel very good about the whole Milan Skriniar situation, that it might actually get resolved pretty quickly. And I really hope that. I really hope that. Yeah, that's something we need to observe as well. I want to move on to the part of the show where we pay tribute, rip the piss out of, and criticize something or someone heavily in the world of football, starting with the positivity, which will be presented by Mr. Michael Gallo.
He works a lot, he's intelligent, and he surprises people sometimes with his ideas. Not easy to find one person all these qualities.
Well, we did mention Handanovic already in this podcast, and rightfully so, because after what happened when Onana started, one of Inter's biggest games of the year so far against Bayern Munich, he could have, been upset about it. He could have been pissed. One of the biggest games, and he wasn't the starter. He's been the starting goalkeeper for Inter since for 9 years now. So it's like, I know if I was a goalkeeper, I would have been pretty upset about it. But he took it fine. And not only that, but he came and had one of his best performances he's had in the last few years and made some incredible saves and pretty much kept Inter from losing this game. So I will give all the credit and positivity. And, I give a lot of, it made me smile actually, being behind the net and watching him make all those saves. I know a lot of those saves were kind of directed in his general direction, but he still had to make those saves. And to play that well just after, the first step of him being replaced happened, was a good, it kind of made me smile because of, I think he's been a really good goalkeeper for Inter over the years. And he does deserve to go out the proper way, whether it be, at the end of this year or the following year. Seeing him play that well and being the man of the match in a game where Inter probably should have lost, I definitely give him the Moratti of the week for his performance against Torino.
Nice one. Agree with that. I just want to give a secondary this week's Moratti to Milan Skriniar for being Skriniar, for being the real captain of this team and being loyal to this team, and everything that he's always done in through a very difficult situation, because that comment was very, very important. I want to move on to something much more comical, this week's Frog, which is by our in-house Mr. Frog now, Mr. Jake Smalley.
È clamoroso! Autogol di Ranocchia!
Mr. Frog, Kermit the Frog.
You're the in-house Frog, aren't you now? Because you always come up with the best ones, and that is yours. It's become yours, hasn't it?
Well, you better put your seatbelt on, because I've got a cracker for you this week. So
okay, Ooh, this is going to be good.
Well, last week was tough to top, but
it was so good.
I might have beaten it. I want to see how this goes down. So this week in English football, about the start of the preliminary rounds of the FA Cup. So the FA Cup proper, where you see a lot of your league teams, your Premier League sides come into it, only tend to be around January time, whereas your lower league teams take part in it at this point. So non-league, almost like your Sunday level teams. So this weekend, during a match between Blackfield and Langley and Shepton Mallet, a 0-0 draw, goalkeeper for Blackfield and Langley, Conor Maseko, was sent off for urinating in a hedge in the middle of the match. The ball went behind his goal for a goal kick. Maseko claimed he needed to use the toilet and decided to go against the hedge. The incident was seen by the Shepton Mallet players, who drew the incident to the attention of the referee. Blackfield and Langley co-manager Conor McCarthy told the BBC, "I was gobsmacked. We were all very shocked at the decision. He was only protecting himself, and he was actually inside the hedge. Sometimes, when you have to go, you simply have to go."
This isn't true. You made that up. There is no way this is true. No, you made this up. You admit that you made this up.
No, I promise you, Conor Maseko. The
This
urinating.
can't be real. This can't be real.
I could just imagine a man and his dog just watching on as this chaos unfolds. It's just fantastic.
That's outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. It's where did you read that from? Which publication is that?
I found this on Twitter. I think I'll have to link it up. But yeah,
it is absolutely fantastic. That is. I don't know how you're going to top this week's frog.
No. I am worried now. I might have to go and start playing Sunday League football myself and doing it.
But oh god, that when you gotta go, you gotta go. But I mean, the thing is, I understand him, but yeah, that is. But so I'm sorry, I missed that, but I was laughing. Did he get booked or suspended?
He was sent off. The referee sent him off. So number 13 had to pull his jersey on and go in goal for the last 24 minutes of the game. So brilliant.
Oh my god, that is
the best image of that I keep getting is the opposition players pointing at him and pointing to the referee, going, "What he's doing," and he's just there hanging out the back of a hedge. It's just absolutely brilliant. I was trying to play a football game, but yeah, there we are.
Oh my days, that is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. I love this. Jake, you are the in-house Mr. Frog. Now you're this is yours. This is completely your thing now. No one's ever touching that again after these. Oh my god, that's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. Right, let's move on to something much more negative. This week's Moggi, which I'll be presenting myself. This week's Moggi can't be anything but the VAR and how, and I'm not just talking about Juve Salernitana because I don't, we're Interisti. We've seen Juve get away with murder for about 100 years, so it's not about them. But this is something that's happening more and more. Well, not more and more, but it's happened twice now in Italy, where an clear offside goal is not detected by VAR, and the technology is using the wrong image. They did it last season with Spezia Lazio when they scored a last gasp goal, and this year, of course, and then of course yesterday when Candreva of all people was keeping Bonucci onside, and the fact that it's Candreva and Bonucci makes it really, really delicious. But this could happen to anyone and to any team, and they have to sort this out. VAR has improved football. I think there's still problems with it, but those will get the more they use it, they'll understand it. But this is like the fundamentals of the game, like was he or was he not offside? And if it's not detecting all the players, I saw that the Italian Football Referees Association put out a statement saying that the referees didn't have all the images, that they didn't have that image, which is what I suspected all along. I don't think the referees saw it because I don't think that image was available to them, and that is incredibly concerning. And it has to be the VAR, the way that they've handled it these past 2 days with the offside call. I mean, again, Candreva scoring and Candreva keeping Bonucci offside, keeping Bonucci onside is so quintessentially Candreva, and also and then obviously Salernitana getting away with it is just, it's hilarious to all of us who've watched Juve screw us and every other team in Italy. This absolutely rings of poetic justice. Let there be no mistake about that. But at the same time, this is due to technical glitches, fundamental technical glitches and errors, and that is fantastic. It's just extraordinarily stupid, and they have to sort that out, because if we can't trust the technology to get the most basic calls right, they'll remove VAR, and I fear that, because I don't trust these referees in Italy to save. I trust them as far as I can trust as far as I can throw an elephant. I don't trust these people, and I want the VAR to be there. So whatever technical problems they have to sort it out. So the Moggi of the week is the VAR technology that failed to catch two now in 2 seasons of the most blatant, glaring offside that we've seen. Right, that's all we had time for this week. Mo had to pop away, so thank you, Mo. I'd like to thank you, Mike. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really appreciate you guys having me on, and really nice hearing your voices. And Forza Inter.
And you, Jake, always good to have you on.
Thank you very much, as always. I have just privately sent you the link to the article, so you can have a little laugh at your leisure.
Yeah, and I'm going to link that article. Can you? Yeah, I'm going to link that article to on the site to this because that is phenomenal, absolutely fantastic. Going for a piss in the middle of a game is so quintessentially brilliant. And getting sent off for it is even better.
Well, when you gotta go, you gotta go.
I don't understand why he was sent off. Why was he sent off? How was that unsportsmanlike behavior? Mike, you're a referee. Can you explain to me the thinking here? What rule did he break?
I've seen this before in a game. I'm not sure. I've seen this. This has happened before, where a goalkeeper needed to take a piss during the game. It's not the first time it's happened. But I've seen it. I don't think it is. It's not.
How is it unsportsmanlike behavior? It's not like
filling the ground with urine, getting the sport.
Unsportsmanlike behavior is by the book a yellow card, not a red card. I mean,
sorry, no, but I mean unprofessional or like violent or whatever.
Well, there's nothing in the laws of the game that would technically call this. It's not violent conduct. It's not serious foul play. It's not denying an obvious goal scorer. You look at, there's nothing for him to get. There's nothing in there.
Anybody just pissed on the hedge,
Yeah. Unless they want to add an 8th law to the red card law and putting in no pissing, then there's your answer. But there's nothing there.
I mean, hang on. Actually, I remember in the Premier League when Amazon Prime was with Tottenham, All or Nothing. What's his name? Was it Harry Winks who ran off the pitch in the middle of a Tottenham game because he needed to poo?
Well, he might have got for doing that because he left the field of play, and I think you're not allowed to leave the field of play without the referee's permission. Okay. So there's your yellow card, but I don't know where you get a red card from. Unless it was the second yellow, which I don't think it was.
I think it was Winks. I can't remember. Or was it Dyer? I can't remember, but it was one of them.
It was Dyer.
Yeah, it was
Dyer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he ran off the pitch in agony, screaming, and Mourinho was like, "What are you doing?" I got to say, of all the All or Nothing Amazons, nothing beats Tottenham's. I think that was the best one. It's just Mourinho's fantastic. You get to see how he talks and all that stuff, and also all the things that happen, the madness. No, I think that's the best one. I really do. Anyway, we got really sidetracked there. Until next week, I'm your host, Nimatale Rute, wishing you a good week, 6 points, stay healthy, and take care of each other, and sempre e solo forza.